Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by the one and only Robert Kiyosaki, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and most recently Fake, which is something I really wanted to go into with you, sir, because I know our audience is very interested in the monetary system and the flaws that come with the monetary system. I wanted to first ask you why you wrote the book Fake.
Well, Fake is really the book that started Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So if Rich Dad, Poor Dad is for elementary school, all Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book on accounting. That's all it is. You know, the most boring subject on planet Earth. And my Rich Dad made accounting interesting because it's a personal accountability. Of course, we don't teach that in school. So Fake is kind of the genesis of how I got to write Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Fake is more graduate school for a little bit more sophisticated reader, a little bit more interested. And so Fake is about fake money, which is the fake monetary system, fake teachers, our academic system, and then fake assets, Wall Street. And they all three go together. And so you could not have fake assets without fake teachers, and you couldn't have it without fake money. So it's like they're all from the same umbilical cord. And so that's why I wrote the book, is because I think our economy is in serious financial shape because after '71, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, you just can't keep printing money. We're blowing into this huge bubble right now. So everything looks good. When you blow the economy, it's called bubblenomics, not economics. It's bubblenomics. You blow the economy into a bubble, you have high real estate prices, high stock prices, high education costs, and everything looks good, except people are getting poorer.
Well, and that's something that's very...
It's like eating fake food. Is our monetary system, starting with fake money, is making people poor. Yeah. That's why I write it. Okay.
Well, and obviously what we call the everything bubble worldwide, everything from derivatives, debt, and pension, housing, all that. And I wanted to ask you, because I've seen you mention several times on Twitter, old guard, the old guard system. You mentioned a few times when talking about the monetary system, it's the old guard system. Can you go into what do you think is the new guard? What are we going to see replace this old worn out system that we've seen fail so many times before?
Well, if you understand history, it's going to fail. And it's no big deal because there's always booms and busts throughout his history. If a person's not prepared, then it's bad. So I'm not against anything. Like the last time I was here at Red Pill, I got accused of being an anarchist. I'm going, I'm not an anarchist, I'm a capitalist. And they said, but you say don't save money. I said, yeah, because I'm a capitalist. And you say don't pay taxes. I said, yes, because I'm a capitalist. And then what else do I say? But anyway, if you understand the capitalist side, everything's fine. So, but most people are taught to be socialists or Marxists, our school system. That's my poor dad's side. And so the reason so many people, young people especially today, swing into the Marxist or socialist side is because our academic system is run by socialists and Marxists. And they're good people. They're like my poor dad. Do you know what I mean? They're not bad people, but they just lack financial education, which is why there's fake teachers. So I'm not an anarchist, or is there a conspiracy? I think it's just stupidity, a lot of it, and ignorance and arrogance. And one guy asked me once, he says, what do you think about artificial intelligence? And I said, oh, you're talking about the Federal Reserve Bank, aren't you? And I said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, the Fed has 1,000 PhD economists. And they're mostly from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and all that, but they don't know anything about money. They're all people like my poor dad. So that's why I call it artificial intelligence. Now I come across like an anarchist because I'm a wise ass, is what I really am.
And I think we could all stand to be a wise ass. And I think the big part of that is about self-responsibility, individual responsibility, taking responsibility over your education and not being dependent on a certain system. That's just intelligence, as you kind of mentioned there. And I have to mention this system. We're seeing a lot of red flags right now, especially recession, a lot of stuff that signifies a coming recession. We saw the yield curve inversion not that long ago in the United States. States with the 10-year and the 3-month, which is absolutely crazy. In the past has signified a recession basically every single time. Do you think we are on the verge of something like a recession in the U.S. after all these years of printing and manipulation? And, you know, we've talked about this before.
Personally, I think we were in a depression. And so that's what happened in 2008. So what happens is there's basically, everybody's trying to call me, so. When the economy starts to slow, the first thing they do is reduce interest rates. And in a recession, that'll generally fix it. So it's like take an aspirin, go home tomorrow, so they reduce interest rates. Well, that didn't work. So then they went to quantitative easing, which is printing money, basically. And that was Bernanke and those guys. That didn't work. So the economy continued down. And finally, it stayed down for 10 years. That's a depression. It's not a recession. And so, again, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm not Christian or Muslim or Buddhist. You know, I'm just a guy who watches the economy. And so as it's coming up right now, it's not lifting. It's lifting for the rich. You know, the gap between the rich and everybody else is getting bigger, which I love because I'm a capitalist. You know, I just love it. But unfortunately, you know, the rest of the human race is suffering. So if we have a setback right now, the question is it recession or depression? Can we recover? Because as they keep saying, with interest rates so low, that's what it means. They can't manipulate the economy anymore. That's all it means to me. So if we go into a depression and that doesn't work, do we go, what's after a depression is collapse. And collapse is a much more dangerous word. And so that's why I speak, you know, again, I'm not a Republican or Democrat, I'm not socialist or communist, you know. I'm just an ordinary citizen who watches the signs. And my shtick is, why don't we have financial education in schools? And I think that's the biggest problem. That's why we have fake teachers.
Well, and I know you're a very busy guy, so quickly, John, do you have a question?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I think the next step that they might go to, Robert, is to go into negative, because they've been talking about pushing it into negative territory. And one last desperate push before, like, I think we're in depression as well, is that they're going to try to go into negative interest rate. But to do that, they have to implement a cashless system. So do you think that they would try to, you know, implement a cashless system? I looked at the Bank of Canada and the Bank Montreal Singapore just created a first blockchain transaction with eCash through the banking system. Do you think that's like something that they will try desperately? I know that the Bank of Japan has also, you know, bought a whole bunch of assets. Do you think like that's going to be their last kind of death throw, is buying assets and trying to go into this negative?
Who knows? You know, who knows what's going to happen? There's another theory that will go to SDRs, which came out, I think, in the 60s, special drawing rights. But that's another fake money solution. You know, it's just going to be, hey, guess what? We have a solution. It's called SDRs. Everybody gets happy. They go drinking, and we've been saved. But the whole system is basically flawed. So the question is, what happens after depression? And there's been collapses every 1,500 years. So the last collapse was the Roman Empire 1,500 years ago. The collapse before that was the Bronze Age. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not a doom and gloom guy. But I just watch the signs. And as we all know, printing money has been tried many, many times. The U.S. Continental Congress did it. We did it during the Civil War. The Germans in the Weimar Republic did it. And it's never ended pretty. The Romans did it. The Chinese did it. It's never been pretty. So my recommendation is, since we came off the gold standard in '71, put yourself on the gold standard. So I'm a very simple man. I save gold and silver coins. I have no ETFs. I don't have savings. I keep my money out of the banking system. And the other thing I say to people, can you operate outside the banking system? Now, is that anarchy? No, I just think it's smart. But in my businesses, we have a year's worth of salary in our safes. So just in case the banks collapse, our strategic event is we can pay our employees to keep working. So can we keep paying our employees? But if they shut the machines down, which is outside most people's parameters, can we keep functioning? So I'm on the gold standard. I operate outside the banking system. and I'm accountable. I am responsible for my own life. I don't expect, Trump's my friend. I don't expect him to take care of me. My God. All these people, Social Security we know is going bust. It's got no money. I think 78 cents of every dollar collected in taxes now goes to entitlement programs or the debt. We can't keep functioning like this. So it's just not if, it's just when, and that's my message.
Yeah, of course, and I think there's a lot of definitions for being smart. You could call it whatever you want, but being smart is obviously something that we need a lot more people to be. I know G. Edward Griffin last night at the Red Pill Expo said all you need is 3% of people to be intelligent. The rest can follow along, and I mean that's a very important thing to remember. Is we don't need the whole populace to, be listening to us and listen to every word we say and following after us. It's just that we need a few people to be smart. Please, for once in this world, just a few more people that are financially educated and responsible. But just finally, finishing it off, of course, the book is Fake, and you can buy it in several locations. We'll put many links below for you to find the book Fake. But with that said, finishing it off, because a lot of people respect your views on this, your opinions, how do you think is the best way that people can insure their wealth in the case of an inevitable collapse at some point?
Well, that's why I said, put yourself on the gold standard. I don't save dollars. In Fake, I talk about the infinite return, where I don't need money to make money. But I've educated myself to be a capitalist. And there's a difference. Most people go to school to learn to be doctors and lawyers. My profession is I'm a capitalist. I use other people's money and other people's time to make myself rich. And I don't need money. But I'm on the gold standard. So I have gold and silver outside the banking system legally. I do nothing illegal. And then the other thing is choose your teachers wisely. If you're listening to these fake teachers, I call him a friend, but I have more disappointed than he teaches entrepreneurship in the UC California, the University of California system. The guy's never been an entrepreneur. And I call him up and I ask him, how in the world can you teach entrepreneurship? He says, well, I have a master's, I have an MBA. And I said, but you don't know anything. And he said, well, that's your opinion. I said, well, it's not my opinion. The market's telling you that. Because if you step outside the doors of academia, guys like us will eat you alive because you're just an academic. And, he's not happy about that. So there's things you can do. I don't agree with this 3% stuff. I think it's just one, you. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and don't worry about everybody else. And it'll spread that way. But when you try and, I can't even convince my own family. They're all counting on the government to take care of them. Do you know what I mean? And they don't listen to their older brother. And they're going, well, we have, they all have master's degrees. We have master's degrees. And all you have is a bachelor's degree. And I go, yeah, but I got money. It doesn't matter. We don't care about money. And look at Ocasio-Cortez. I'm not a Republican or Democrat. She's got a FICO score of 425. You know what that means? She doesn't pay her bills. She doesn't pay her bills. That's what it means. And she's on the Congressional Budget Committee. And the most money she ever made was $28,000 a year. And she's paying her employees $150K a year. God bless America. If there's conspiracy or treason, that's it. How can you hire somebody who's a debt flake to run the Congressional Budget Office? I mean, my God, sports fans.
It's absolutely incredible. And as always, as you've mentioned many times before, your network is your net worth, and people need to stop complaining and start doing. It's not what the problem is, it's what you're doing about the problem. So I really appreciate all the education that you've spread throughout the years to so many people. It's very important, and I think a lot of people have come out of it a lot more strong, a lot more resistant to whatever problems we might have around us. That's the most important part. What are you doing? So again, the book is Fake. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, guys.
Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin Griffin, and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Thank you.